My name is Wendy Foster, a 32-year-old interior designer from Oklahoma City. I had spent months planning my ideal wedding, envisioning every moment, the vows, the giggles, the minute I'd walk down the aisle. My fiancé and I worked our hearts out, thinking my parents would be front row center to see the most important day of my life. But then one phone call crushed that dream. My father's tone was dull, unremorseful. They weren't attending. Instead, they were taking my younger brother on an extravagant vacation to Big Sur, a trip they said was more important than my wedding. The words stung like a slap, bringing with them every childhood memory of feeling ignored. Always second to my brother. I stood stuck, holding the phone as my mother repeated his excuse, dismissively. I wasn't hurt. I was finished. Finished begging for their attention. Finished swallowing the hurt of their favoritism. That night, I made a decision. I was not going to let their neglect spoil my day. I did something outrageous, something that would make them wish they had never decided to screw me over. And when they found out the truth, it spun their world around. What did I do? Keep reading to see how I reclaimed my power and made them pay. If you've ever experienced being ignored or betrayed by family, hit that subscribe button and tell me your story in the comments. Let's create a community that supports one another. Tune in to find out how my parents' decision to miss my wedding resulted in a moment they will never forget. Childhood in a peaceful Oklahoma City suburb was like a dream until it wasn't. Our small home hummed with vitality, Sunday barbecues, game nights, and my parents cheering at my soccer games. My dad, Harold Foster, a reliable guy with a good head for math, and my mom, Irene Foster, always running back and forth from her retail job and family dinners, made the world seem secure. My younger brother, Logan Foster, 4 years younger than me, was my shadow, following me with his toy trucks and questions that would not cease. We were a unit. Or so. I was 10 when the cracks showed up. My parents' late-night arguments were louder, their voices biting with words I didn't really get. Divorce, custody, beginning over. I'd cower under my blanket, heart pounding, hoping they'd remain together. They did, but something changed. The atmosphere at our home became dense, like a storm that never fully broke. Then, my parents transformed. They doted on my brother as if he were the adhesive bonding them together. It began with small added hugs for him, new shoes when mine were still worn. By 11, it was glaring. They'd miss my school plays in order to bring him to baseball practice, praising his every swing, while my report cards were ignored. "He needs us more," Mom once said, pushing aside my disappointment. I worked harder, making the debate team, entering art contests, hoping they'd notice. But their gazes were on him, his games, his tantrums, his every desire. I'd stay awake at night thinking, why wasn't I enough? There was a summer when I was 12, I had saved my allowance to spend on a new sketchbook, hoping to show Mom my designs. I drew for hours, putting my heart into every stroke. When I finally presented it to her, she looked at it, unfocused, and said, "That's nice, Wendy, but your brother has to be helped with his science project." My chest constricted, the sketchbook falling from my grasp. I did not cry. I had found that did not accomplish anything. Instead, I pushed harder, rehearsing speeches, bringing home A's in math tests, anything to get them to pay attention. But each triumph was like yelling in a vacuum. My brother's laughter rang through the house as my own triumphs resonated silently. It wasn't just attention with the favoritism. It was time, money, everything. They got him a new bicycle for his birthday, and I received a card and a pat on the back. When I questioned Dad on why, he exhaled. "He's younger, Wendy. You're tough enough to cope." Tough enough. Those words seared, etching an empty place within me. I began keeping count at every missed recital, every instance when they accepted his requirements over mine. At 13, I quit begging for their acceptance, but the pain remained keen and unyielding.
I'd seen them rejoice over his games, their faces smiling, and feel like a foreigner in my house. In retrospect, those years defined me. I learned to look to myself in order to construct my own world where I was not invisible. But the hurt of being second best never disappeared. It wasn't the things that they gave him, it was the love that they denied me. I bore that burden, unaware of how it would detonate years later. By my teenage years, I was finished begging for their attention. As I aged, my parents' favoritism of Logan became unignorable. By the time we entered high school, the distance between us was a chasm. My father forever buried in his accounting books, and my mother, scurrying between her retail jobs, channeled their energy and funds into Logan's every desire. At 16, he received a brand new pickup truck on his birthday, paid for without hesitation. Meanwhile, I was given the keys to their used sedan, said it was sufficient for me. "Wendy, you're in charge," Dad said in his voice, like I should be thankful for leftovers. I wasn't requesting a vehicle. I simply wanted them to notice me. My last year of school, I received a full-ride scholarship to the University of Oklahoma for art and design. I rushed home, bursting with pride, expecting a celebration. Instead, Mom barely looked up from her phone. "That's great, Wendy, but Logan's got a big game this weekend," she said, distracted. Logan, a junior, was already the star of the basketball team, and my parents never missed a single dunk. My scholarship announcement forgotten by dinner. They didn't even inquire about my plans after college, yet they paid thousands for Logan's private tutoring sessions. I began to feel invisible in my own life, my success supplanted by his spotlight. I left home at 19, determined to forge my own way. I studied late nights, worked part-time jobs, and secured internships with the best interior design companies in Oklahoma City. At 26, I'd begun my own small business designing comfortable lobbies for local hotels. My first major contract, a boutique hotel in the city, felt like a victory. I took my parents to the grand opening, thinking perhaps they'd finally be proud. Dad texted, "Sorry, Wendy, we're at Logan's gym opening." My brother, who just graduated from college, had chosen to be a personal trainer. My parents did more than just support him, they supported his whole startup, from equipment to lease. I looked at that text, my heart dropping, realizing my achievement meant nothing to them. Logan leaned on their favoritism, gloating in the glory. He'd call Mom for business tips, and she'd spend hours on the phone giggling, scheming out his next step. When I called to give some news about a new client, she'd interrupt me. "Can we speak later? Logan's having a huge meeting." My brother was not cruel. He just never challenged why he got everything and I got excuses. Dad would tell me, "Logan's still figuring it out. You're okay, Wendy." Okay? That word turned into a knife, cutting through my self-esteem.
I began questioning if I was the issue, if I'd ever be good enough. I pushed more, doing more projects, winning local design awards. I was profiled in an Oklahoma City magazine for young business owners at the age of 28. I sent a copy to my parents in hopes of a response. Weeks passed before Mom casually brought it up. "Oh, that article was pleasant, but did you check out Logan's new site?" My brother's athletic label was booming, funded by their savings. My accolades, my late nights, my sacrifices, they didn't penetrate. I cut them off from updates, but the pain of invisibility became heavier. Every slight constructed a wall in me. I'd stay up all night replaying their dismissals, wondering why I kept trying. My parents' love was a currency that I could not earn, even if I worked hard. It wasn't money or time, it was the way they gazed at Logan as their pride, and I was an afterthought. At 29, I realized I had to stop seeking their validation, but the pain lingered with me, influencing every decision I made. Soon, I was redesigning Chain's lobbies, incorporating sleek lines into warm invites that gained compliments throughout the city's artistic communities. Each new project was a success, a reflection of my determination in a world where my parents' approval was a fade. Late nights fine-tuning floor plans and finding materials became my sanctuary, a means to drown out the persistent fear that I'd never be good enough. When I was 30 years old, I met Gregory Lane at a networking event.
He was a project manager with an easy confidence and quick wit that drew me in. We bonded over shared frustrations with clients and a love for late-night diner runs. Our connection grew fast. First dates turned into weekends together, his steady presence grounding me in ways I hadn't known I needed. When Gregory introduced me to his parents, Beverly Lane and Albert Lane, polite distance was what I anticipated. Instead, Beverly enfolded me in a hug, exclaiming, "Wendy, you're one of us now." Albert, with his biting wit and a bottomless supply of questions regarding my designs, treated me like a treasure. Their Boulder home became a refuge. Sunday evening dinners with good-natured laughter and tales, a striking contrast to coldness I'd become accustomed to. Their welcoming nature was a salve, soothing the pain of being relegated to the fringes by my own kin. Yet I couldn't bring myself to entirely let go of my parents. I'd phone Mom and wait for an instant of connection, only to hear her fawn over Logan's newest fitness studio, financed completely by their retirement funds. "He's a killer," she'd remark, hardly inquiring about my projects. Dad was similarly remote, brushing off my requests to view my new hotel lobby with vague stories of Logan's schedules being full. I sent them a link to a local design blog feature on my work, hoping this would ignite pride. Mom's response was a brusque, "Nice work, Wendy, but we're working on Logan's new campaign." Every rejection felt sharp, sending the message that I was still invisible to them. Logan, ever again, rooted in their attention, relying on them for all, while I struggled to get crumbs of their time. Gregory's family replaced the space. Beverly would call to check up, asking me about my current projects with true interest. Albert offered tips on dealing with tough clients, his gruff kindness making me feel like a daughter. Their encouragement bolstered me, but didn't dispel the hurt of my parents' disregard. I invited them to a professional event where I was being recognized as a star on the rise. Dad consented to attend, only to cancel at the last minute, saying Logan needed assistance with a business loan. "You'll be okay, Wendy," he said, his tone distant. I swallowed the pain, fed up with pleading for their attention. Later, Gregory asked me to marry him under a starlit night sky, his words direct but unshakable. "Wendy, let's create our future together." My heart overfilled with hope, envisioning a future where I was enough. As we began making plans for our wedding, I mailed my parents a save-the-date card, holding on to a dying hope that they'd appear for me. Their reaction when it arrived would lead me to a breaking point I never anticipated. Since our wedding was only months away, Gregory and I went all out in planning. We booked a large ranch, outskirts of Oklahoma City, and imagined a day surrounded by gentle lights, wildflowers, and our dearest friends and loved ones. Each meticulous detail, table settings, music playlists, even the homemade vows, seemed like a part of ourselves uniting. Gregory managed logistics with his cool efficiency, while I fretted over the aesthetic, sketching out layouts to create the venue to feel like an extension of our love. Unburdened for the first time in years, I felt that I was creating something that was mine. But underlying the excitement, a secret hope remained. Perhaps this would be the time my parents would finally show up for me. I sent classy invitations to Harold Foster and Irene Foster, my parents, imagining them walking me down the aisle. I added a heartfelt handwritten note. "This is my special day. I'd be so happy if you could be there." Weeks passed with no response. I phoned Mom, my voice firm but optimistic. "Did you get the invitation?" I asked. Her reply was curt. "We're busy, Wendy. Logan's going on a trip." My stomach fell. "What trip?" I asked. She didn't say anything, but then confessed they were bringing Logan to Big Sur for a weekend of luxury. "It's family," she added, as if I wasn't family. I strained back, my voice rising. "This is my wedding. Doesn't this count?" Mom sighed, dismissive. "You'll have lots of people there, Wendy." The call with Dad was worse. "Big Sur is a once-in-a-lifetime situation," he told me in a flat tone, like my wedding was a Tuesday. I lost it, years of anger finally boiling over. Why is it always Logan? Why am I never good enough? He stayed quiet, and then he grumbled, "Don't make this about you." I hung up, my shaking hands, feeling hollowed out. Their decision was not just about missing my wedding, it was a final affirmation that I'd never be their priority. Logan, as always, took center stage, their time, their money, while I struggled for crumbs of their time. I walked back and forth in our apartment, tears pricking at my eyes, replaying their words. It wasn't the trip alone, it was every time they picked him over me, every time I'd bitten my tongue to maintain the peace. Gregory caught me huddled on the couch, my hands over my face. He didn't encourage me to speak, merely sat beside me, his presence calm. "They can't destroy this," he whispered softly, his hand on mine. I moved my head, but the pain was something I couldn't elide. Beverly and Albert Gregory's parents phoned to inquire about their eagerness for the wedding, a polar opposite to my parents' dismissal. "We can't wait to see you in that dress," Wendy Beverly said, her tone soothing. Their affirmation made the betrayal hurt more. I'd chased my parents' love for years only to be rejected again. This time it felt conclusive. That night I couldn't sleep, my mind spinning. I was finished begging, finished expecting a change that would never materialize. Their choice to bypass my wedding for a trip with Logan wasn't merely a snub. It was a line in the sand. I was not going to let their absence determine my day. I had a surge of resolve, a desire to regain control. I didn't know precisely what I would do, but I knew it would be significant, something that would make them realize the price of their action. The pain was raw, but it fueled a fire within me. I was prepared to stand up not only for my wedding, but for myself. One night of sleepless nights, I realized I was finished begging for attention from my parents. The hurt of Harold and Irene having gone on a trip with Logan over my wedding still stung, but I was not going to allow it dampen my joy. Greg and I plunged into creating our ideal day, our love celebration in a ranch outside Oklahoma City. I used my design sensibilities to inform every choice. Handwritten vows, gentle lantern light, a room that felt like us. Missing my family hurt, but there was a determination that kept me going. This wedding was about the life I was creating, not the one they did not see. Beverly and Albert, Gregory's family, came to the rescue like a lifeline. Beverly spent hours with me selecting flowers, her kind guidance soothing my anxiety. "Wendy, today is yours," she said, smiling steadily. Albert handled vendor details with his no-nonsense humor, keeping things on schedule. Their warmth was the family I'd always wished for. My friend, Tracy Adams, a photographer with an eye for raw emotion, volunteered to photograph the wedding. "I'll make today shine," Wendy Tracy promised, her energy infectious. Friends stood with us, their support bridging the gap left by Harold, Irene, and Logan. I hadn't heard from them. No phone calls, no texts, only silence. It stung, but I used it to make our day one we would never forget, determined to show them I didn't need them to be complete. The wedding day dawned, and I stood in front of the mirror, my lace wedding gown flowing elegantly. Gregor's gaze caught my eyes in silence. "You're everything to me, keeping me steady." As I proceeded down the aisle, the audience, friends, colleagues, faces from town, exploded into applause. Tracy's camera clicked, capturing the love that engulfed us. Beverly's eyes shone brightly as she gave my hand a squeeze while Albert nodded proudly. Their absence was a nagging pain, but other people's happiness tempered it. We vowed to love each other every day and received thunderous applause, which felt like an open-armed hug from the world. The reception pulsed with laughter, music, and dancing, an electric testament to the community that arrived when my family didn't. As the evening came to an end, Gregory and I snuck off to catch our breath while drinking in the warm afterglow of our day. I checked my phone for messages from friends still flying high. And I noticed it. My mother's social media post dated that day. Pics of her, Harold, and Logan smiling on a large Sur cliff. Waves in the background captioned, "Family adventure of a lifetime." The words cut like a knife, turning the happiness of my wedding bittersweet. They hadn't simply skipped my wedding, they had announced their decision to the world like I wasn't important. I scrolled through their update, reading comments from their friends, nothing about my wedding, and felt another wave of pain. Gregory saw my face drop and hugged me tight. "They don't define you," he growled. I nodded, tears welling, but his words grounded me. The success of the wedding resonated in Oklahoma City. Friends posted pictures online, and vendors blogged about the wedding, declaring it a night to remember. The word spread quickly, and I had no doubt Harold and Irene would learn about it through mutual acquaintances or social media gossip. Their Big Sur moment, now so proudly put on display, was now in contrast to the report of my glowing day. I pictured them winching as friends questioned why they'd missed it. Logan, too, would discover how my wedding flourished in his absence. I didn't wish to hurt them, but I hoped they'd realize the significance of their absence. The love that surrounded me, Gregory's support, Beverly's warmth, Tracy's lens inspired me in ways my parents never had. I felt free, not from their regret, but from the knowledge that I was enough.
As we stepped out of the ranch hand in hand, I had with me a new kind of strength. With that flame burning in my chest, I turned to look ahead. The victory of our wedding, in spite of Harold, Irene, and Logan's absence, ignited a spark within me. Their Grand Sur post, their beaming photos splashed all over social media on my wedding day, hurt. But I was finished allowing their decisions to dampen my shine. Rather, I focused all my energy on creating a life that would speak for itself. Gregory and I settled into our new life, and I dove into my career, driven to leave my mark as an interior designer. The love of my new family, Gregory, Beverly, and Albert, provided me with the courage to move beyond the pain and build a future where I was adequate. My design business, a small company in Oklahoma City, started soaring. A large hotel chain saw my work and presented me with a contract to redesign their lobbies across the country. I worked late into the night, drawing together sleek sophistication with comfortable warmth, and before long, my designs were published in industry magazines. I received an award for innovation at a national design conference, my voice ringing out over the crowd as I took the plaque. "This is for every person who's ever felt invisible," I declared in my speech, my heart pounding inside my chest. Clients fought over me, and my firm grew, hiring a staff to keep up with the demand. Each project was a step closer to validating my existence, not for my parents, but for myself. The achievement was mine, constructed out of years of perseverance and a determination to not remain in anyone's shadow. My life with Gregory and his family was a sanctuary I'd never experienced. We purchased a house in Oklahoma City, a small but intimate place where I could rough out drawings while he prepared dinner, his laughter echoing in the rooms. Beverly and Albert were constants. Beverly gave Sunday brunches where her warm hug turned me into a daughter. "Wendy, your designs are incredible," she'd tell me, studying my newest sketches with unfeigned pride. Albert, quick-witted, provided business counsel, advising me on the precise ways to grow my firm. Theirs was an unconditional love, a far cry from the indifference I'd known growing up. Gregory, my pillar, joined me in every celebration, from contracts to late nights of brainstorming. "You're unstoppable," he'd tell me, his eyes shining with pride. Their encouragement enveloped me, completing the space left vacant by my own family's absence. Meanwhile, drama from my parents' Big Sur post unfolded. Their photographs shared so recklessly on my wedding day ignited chatter in their social circle. Friends and associates in Oklahoma City noticed the comparison my beautiful wedding made through Tracy's and others' posts against their self-promoted vacation. Mutual acquaintances informed me that Harold and Irene were confronted with direct questions regarding why they'd avoided my day.
Irene, normally more adept at coming up with excuses, stumbled under the attention. Her reputation dented. Harold's tough exterior cracked as colleagues cooled towards him. Their admiration diminished. Logan's fitness club suffered. Clients drifted away, blaming him for the family's decision. The community's condemnation was quick, not because I'd called them on it, but because their own behavior laid bare their motivations. I heard Irene's cried in tears, confessing they'd miscalculated me. Logan, formerly impervious, looked shaken, his charm no defense against the rumors. Their remorse was real, a penalty they'd imposed upon themselves. I cut them off, not in anger, but for the sake of my peace. I blocked their numbers, slamming the door on a relationship that had never brought anything but pain into my life. My life with Gregory, my successful career, and the love of his family were more than sufficient. I felt liberated, as if I'd finally escaped from under their cloud. My success wasn't about disproving them, it was about being proven correct. I'd created a life where I was appreciated, with others looking at me for who I was. To all who've listened to my story, thank you for your time. The moral here is obvious. Your value isn't measured by the people who ignore you. Establish boundaries, pursue your dreams, and keep company with individuals who raise you up. I'd appreciate your opinions. Share them below, and let's keep this conversation alive. As I moved forward, I carried that freedom with me.